Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm back in my office after the holidays, the holy days that we celebrated, and it looks like my office mate brought more stuff in. That's okay. Anyway, I welcome you. I love taking some time to just give back, to set aside an hour for us to just check in and do our own inner work. I am a psychologist in my day job. My name is Dr. Cheryl Meier, and but right here we're just working on whatever's going to come up for us to work on. Lately, someone I was talking to today was saying that people are really craving more silence in their life and less of this neurotic flash of like 1 minute videos that people have been watching on some of those other platforms that begin with a T. So let's see why it's difficult for us sometimes to just get quiet and enter into this quiet present mode of being deeply present. I know at my house, I have over my home office, I have a post-it note that says, or like a little note that I wrote out that says, every time I go into this present moment, I'm trusting divine love, God, to be there, right? And so watch, I'll show you this plaque I have. I have this couple that always reminds me of love, and I have, look, she got this beautiful heart. Let's see. I'll pick it up. I love hearts and roses. Maybe she brought this in for the next holiday that's coming. Look how pretty that is. I love hearts. I'm always wearing this, but this heart. But I have from grade school this Hallmark plaque, right? God is love. And so look at that. Roses and hearts and a butterfly. This is like transformation. I had this, oh, and a little angel. There's little cherubs on it. Anyway, there's little cherubs on it as well. And so I have, let's go with the theme. I have this angel here, and here's my angel photos. That's a good place to put them. Anyway, I have two angel paintings that Charlie Mackesy did. They're over there, but I'll just leave them. And so we're not just looking at art here. It's just sometimes your outer environment will reflect what's going on inside. Like, look at, I have this journal that I just got. Like, practicing presence. That's what the journal, it has 3 hearts, and it's this magical unicorn to remind myself, when you practice presence, you are trusting that divine love is going to be there. And so I did my dissertation on, I'm just seeing if I have the book. They had printed it out in a book. This is like 20 years ago, on how we internalize the positive and negative qualities of our parents, and we actually view God. It was studying how we view God based on those qualities. And so oftentimes people don't want to be like that angel, right? Like contemplative, or they don't know that transformation can really take place, that that God is love, that I kept seeing roses, and I was finally praying, and I asked God, why do I keep seeing roses everywhere? And I did a whole video on this before, but it was like, I got an acronym, like, call it the Holy Spirit, call it into inner knowing, call it your connection with the divine. When you go into artistic mode and you're relaxed and you're not in your fear mode, then sometimes you get this insight as if it's from heaven. Like, I remember John Lennon saying that he woke up with this song playing from his dreams, right? Or when he asked his son, Julian, oh, what is that in his drawing? He said, oh, that's Lucy in the sky with diamonds, right? And people were like, oh, that has to do with something else. And he's like, no, it really doesn't. And it was his drawing. So like, look, here's all the diamonds in the sky, right? And so they came up with that awesome song. And so what I got with roses is rise, open your soul eyes, all right? So just like you have 5 physical senses. So I'm just giving you a little side note right here is like, I'm not your regular everyday psychologist. Like I did get trained. I have my doctorate. It's on the wall right here. My doctorate, my master's, where I went and did my internship in Montreal at the McGill University was part of that. But my office mate's on here too, so I don't want to show it. But I'm so private about other people. Anyway, so but what was I going to say about way back when I got my training? I was going to say something about it. I'll remember. Oh yeah, okay, so I did get my training. Yeah, I got my doctorate a long time ago, over 20 years ago, but I never want to age myself because we're ageless, right? And so, but they say in England, oh, he's a bit of a one-off. She's a bit of a one-off. And I'm like, what's a one-off? Someone described my friend Charlie that way because I was asking about him before I met him over 20 years ago. Here, I'll show you his paintings. Like he sent them to me. They're so beautiful. Maybe the light's shining on it from the ceiling, but oh no, that's just the way the painting is. It's just these, because he was sent to boarding school as a child, and so it's these boys playing the piano with an angel, inspiring them over. So yeah, I was asking about Charlie from this guy, Nigel, and he's like, oh, he's a bit of a one-off. I'm like, what's a one-off? What does that mean? Because I need it translated from British, slang. And he said, oh, just like one off the normal track of life, just like you're wild. But I already knew that about him. I saw him in this video and his hair was all over and he had been talking to these girls in a boarding school about celibacy or something like us. No, he had been talking about something else. It was really awesome. But the interviewer asked him afterwards about that. She's like, is it hard to be like that? He's like, yeah, of course it is. It's like, yeah, it was so refreshing back at the time because I was so used to different kinds of, now I'm a Christian by faith, but I welcome all people of all faiths. And I just encourage you, keep seeking what is true, what is that God is love. Don't be daring to be in the present moment. Don't be shy to keep seeking after truth and quiet and stillness. Even God says that in the scriptures. It says, be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted on the earth. Not that God's a narcissist. God doesn't need to be exalted. It's just like the kings from the east, they recognized Jesus and they went to see him and they brought gifts to him. And there's a tradition that one of the kings broke his sword when he saw Jesus because he was like, no more violence. No more violence after I saw the Prince of Peace, right? Saw someone who is a king that left heaven, like the God-man who left heaven. He knew that because it was predicted years before when Daniel was there that the Messiah would come, the king would be born at a certain time and to look for the stars. And so Daniel, the prophet Daniel, was taken away from Israel and into Babylon, and he was the head of all the stargazers and whatever they were called. I forgot what they were called back then. The Chaldeans, whatever it was, he was put in charge of all of them. And so he trained them And anyway, they knew this prophecy that the God-man was going to come on this earth. And even the Buddha talked about the God-man that's going to come. He's like, I'm just an awakened one. You're meant to be awake. Look to him. And anyway, it's this deep love of God to leave heaven and come down here for us. And look, right when I say that, right, when I talk about the deep love, I look over at my cup. It says, just be mine, you know. It's my water. All right, and so watch what happens when you start being intentional, aware, and conscious about cleaning up the interior part of your life. And not just you cleaning it, right? We can do all the cleaning we want. When you ask God to take you through the refiner's fire, and when Jesus says, in order to be my disciple, you must count the cost, take up your cross every day, and you die to your old self. That's what it is. That's what it means. It means, there's verses that say, do not trust in uncertain riches. Though your riches increased, don't put your trust in them. Though I just lost 60 pounds, though this is a size 0, though your waist decreases, right? You can't tell really in this video, but though this happens, don't put my trust in it. I can't build my worth on this new size that I am, as much as I feel 60 pounds lighter, and I'm wearing a size 0 and extra small. It's like, it's not ever for you to tie your worth to these external things. And so what we were going to look at is we were looking at not just analyzing. We're not here to analyze why people want silence more. Look, the sun setting. I opened the blinds for us. It's so pretty. I love, just look at this tree right here, right? I love staring at the wind blowing through the leaves sometimes. Is there any movement? Can you tell? This French philosopher Blaise Pascal, I don't know if I'm saying Blaise correctly. I was quoting him to this one guy from India, and he's just like started speaking this quote back to me in French, and I'm like, oh, so you know him. Yeah, that's funny. But and it was wonderful because he continued it in English for me, because my French, I lived in Montreal for a year, but my French is not so good. But Blaise Pascal said, all of man's problems can boil down to, or go back to, they're not able to sit in a room quietly by themselves. So I'm asking, and you don't have to answer me, but let's just be present for a second and go, what are we afraid of? Why are we afraid of silence? Why were we running and consuming all of this social media and the dopamine highs, and like, some of it's really cool. Like you learn how to cook something in 1 minute, or you learn how to, organize your closet in 1 minute, and, you learn how to do dips with your arms, or push-ups, or squats, or there's different things. So there's not no use for those, but it's just coming to me like, who are you? Who are you? I was reminded of a quote from this French monk, right? Teilhard de Chardin. Before I thought of Pascal, I thought of his. He says, we are not physical beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a physical experience. You are spirit and you're in this body. That's why it feels confining sometimes. And that's why, you feel like I'm so much more than just this. And you could be at this mundane job, or I know when I was first a mom, it's like you're just changing diapers and nursing. So this baby is like living off of milk that's coming from your body. And it's so beautiful on the one hand. It's so magical and absolutely beautiful because like sustenance, you're drinking water and eating food and all these chemicals that bond you to your baby, and that nutrients and what the baby needs. Like they say, if the baby gets sick, then when you have skin to skin contact with the baby on your body starts creating the antibodies that, to start healing that baby, and it comes through the nursing milk. So it's amazing. But you also feel like every 2.5, 3 hours, this baby is like, taking milk out of your body. And it just like, I mean, imagine like every 3 hours when you're sleeping and stuff too, because sometimes you don't know how to teach them how to sleep, and it's so beautiful because they say like oxytocin gets released from your body. It's the same chemical as when people are climaxing while they're married and they're, you know what I mean? It's like having an orgasm or something. It bonds the people to each other, even and that's why, I mean, that's another reason why it's important to be conscious and be chaste. I encourage people to, because, if you're a woman and you release this chemical and you actually bond with another person that you ought not to be bonding with, then you confuse yourself because you feel so bonded to this person. And of course it feels good, just like any high feels good. And just like it feels good to like numb out on TV. It feels good if I had cappuccinos all day long, but I don't want to be addicted to caffeine, and I don't want to bond to the wrong person. I don't want to, there's also things called soul ties where it's like, they say spiritually, if people have open doors in their lives where they're like, let's say they're addicted to something, or they keep, now, none of us are perfect. It's not saying anyone's perfect, but if someone keeps going back to something and they're not anyway, it's kind of like whatever's attached to them, you're attaching yourself to them. And that's why it's the same thing. It's important not to go to occultist people or mediums or people like that who are talking to the dead and trying to connect for you, because you might think you're going to feel better in the present moment, talking to people you don't know what spirits they're talking to or who they're connected with. Because if there are such thing as the Akashic records, or I don't know the other names for them, they're in the Bible, in a different, they're everything that you would want to wonder about is mentioned on some level in the scriptures. But hold on, I'll check if there's a, it's kind of hinted at when the disciples ask, when Jesus asks the disciples, who do you think I am? And they will say, some say you are a prophet from of old. Like that's talking about reincarnation. Some say you are Elijah, and some people are saying like Herod was thinking you're John the Baptist, but John the Baptist was just there, so John the Baptist was only 6 months older than Jesus. So how could he have been that? But anyway, I don't know how they understood the world back then. But anyway, if there's, oh, I know. Thank you, God. I'm like, thank you, God. In Psalm 139, all right, it says, the book that has been written about me, you know every page. You know when I sit, you know when I rise. Even if I go off to the depths of hell or I go up to the heavens, right? All of these ups and downs, you are still there with me. If I go into the dark, darkness is as light to you. God can still see in the dark. God made the dark and the light, let there be light, and it was good. And so, so if on a spiritual level, these entities or whatever they are have access to records, if they're kind of like a holographic, I don't know what God allows them to see, but they can mimic people that have passed over. And I was going to say earlier, when I was talking about our senses, we have 5 physical senses. Well, we also have spiritual senses: the sense of sight, inner sight, smell, tasting, hearing, inner hearing, and touch. And so you have what's called an etheric body, and this is wherever it says in the book of Acts or the book of Revelation that Jesus is, or in one of the Gospels when he's saying you will have a new resurrected body. And C.S. Lewis talks about it really, really well in the book Mere Christianity. He said if we could, and the book The Weight of Glory. I wonder if I have The Weight of Glory right here. I have his Narnia books right here. He says if we could see each other in our glorified state, we would be tempted to worship because we would look like this shining angel. Like I get my fingernails done this way to remind myself of our spiritual nature, right? That you are this sparkly self. Every single person I interact with and you interact with is like this sparkly, shiny. And that's why, that's why God gave me this, when I saw roses, is rise, open your soul eyes, start seeing the world in this magical way, right? Like, why not? Why not? Why not? Because it's the word magic is magus in Greek, and it just means powerful. So I'm not talking about any weird occult magic because I don't recommend that. And that's what I was going to say about, wow, something smells so good. Maybe it's these lilies here. Oh, I just smelled, right? When I was talking about your sense of smell. No? These are real, but oh, it's a perfume. I put on this perfume before I left. And so, the sun is setting and it's that. Wow. It's a really beautiful smell. All right. And so when you're intentional about seeing things through your spiritual eyes, what do you think stops us from going into that mode, right? Let's review a little bit. I'll use my journal and just take a blank page for us. Or I might, look, I have blank paper here. It might be in my perfume. It might be, sometimes she has candles or incense. But anyway. Okay, so. Okay, here's the rose for us. Let's see if I can put it next to her roses for St. Valentine's Day. There we go. If you want to take a screenshot, that's all I'm doing. To remind yourself, stay in love. In John chapter 15, I think it's 15, Jesus says, I am the vine, you are the branches, remain in my love, abide. If you abide in me, you will, another part says you will bear much fruit. And so, why are we afraid to enter into this silence? I've done a whole video on this, on our fear responses. When we're in fear, versus relaxed, trusting. I'll put God in brackets here, because actually when you're trusting in divine love. Fear versus trusting, relaxed and trusting. When you're in fear, you go into this like freak out stage, right? All of us do this when we get in our primal fear response. It's just like when we're 1 year old or 6 months, and if our parents like left us and abandoned us, and we're just crying for food, and we're really hungry, or we feel neglected, or whatever. We don't understand why we're left in this crib with a wet diaper and whatever else is going on. Or when we're 2 and this society is so fallen and broken that it tries to make it so that our moms have to have 2 jobs in order to get enough food for us, or whatever. They don't see another solution besides that. And so our caretakers have neglected us in some way. We internalize our worth based on how they treated us or how they thought of themselves. Even if they tried to treat us with a bunch of love, if they internalize that they weren't worth a lot of this, then they could teach us always to be anxious and fearful and in a neurotic state. All right, so the 5 fear responses are fight. I added 2 to the normal. There's 3 1. Fight, flight, and freeze. All right, so a lot of people teach on fight, flight, freeze. You want to fight the person that you perceive in that moment is hurting you, or yourself. You want to fight yourself because you're like, how could you make me look so bad? You're in egotism. This takes you back into egotism. Flight, you just want to run away from the whole thing and numb yourself in some kind of addiction. Shame fuels addictions, just so you know. And so when you move to forgiveness, when Jesus says, I came to set the prisoners free, this frees you from shame. God's forgiveness and you forgiving yourself and you forgiving other people. Forgiveness frees you from shame. All right. So I'm going to add to the fight, flight, freeze. Not that we have to know these things. It doesn't always, our mind's like, what am I learning in this video? But we ought to be equipped as well. So why not? Fight, flight, freeze. Fawn, just so it's F's, people talk about this, which is trying to please someone so they'll stop hurting you. Just like if you are a 2-year-old, you're trying to please your parents. But then you get in this cycle of constantly trying to please unpleasable people, or the narcissist. You are drawn to, I can go into that, hold on. Fawn or fret. Jesus says, why are you worrying? Do not worry. Bring your worries all to God, right? Cast your burdens unto Jesus because he cares for you. Okay, so these are the 5 fear responses. And there's a verse in 2 Timothy that said, God did not give us a spirit of fear, but one of power, love, and a sound mind. And the word sound mind there in the Greek, look, I'll show you, just so you know. It's so cool because I have my Greek Bible. This is either mine or my brother's because we both took Greek at the same time. It's so cool. Hold on. 1st and 2nd Peter, 1st and 2nd, 3rd John, Timothy, Jude, and Revelation, Hebrews, James. Oh, here it is. 2nd Timothy 1:7. Okay. Wow, look at this. Look at this in Greek, okay? It's all Greek too. There's English underneath. It's right here, okay? I'm going to read it for us. 2 Timothy 1:7, it says, not for God did not give us, that's what it's saying. God gave us not, I'm just going to translate that, a spirit of cowardice, right? That's this word delius, but of power, that's dunamis. It comes from the word dunamis. It's spelled something here, dunamus. And of love, that's the word agape love. That's this real divine love. And of self-control, right? That's how they translate a sound mind. But it's sophronismo. Okay, look, I took Greek, so I'm just doing it phonetically for us. Self-control, right? I've looked it up a lot before, but you can look it up yourselves. It's like this mind able to be intentional, able to direct yourself. He did not give us a spirit of cowardice. The cowardice says, I can't ever heal from my childhood trauma. I have to stay a victim. All I know is these responses, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, fret. These are automatic reactions. All right. You are a soul. You are an eternal soul, and God wants to save your soul, right? It's like my friends would sing in this 80s band back in Montreal. So not my other friends that sing in an 80s band here in California, but they would sing Little Day about Jack and Diane to American kids in the heartland or something like that. And there's different parts of that song that I'm not going to sing, but there's a great part that's like, come on, save my soul. Hold on to 16 as long as you can, right? It's just like celebrating the innocence of youth. There's some corrupted innocence in that book, in that song. So I'm not promoting that song. I'm just saying, like, there's elements that people are aware of when they're connecting to this love, and everyone just, I understand the it's like when you get your first kiss on the cheek or something, and it's just like, oh, that guy, like, really, just like these. Look at how loving this couple is. This is why I found this old. I didn't, when I first got my office over 20 years ago, I didn't have any money. And so I found, I think, yeah, this might be a greeting card. I would find greeting cards and I would just frame them. But how sweet. How lovingly he's looking at her. And I wonder if I have any old ones. So, why not? Why not be tenderhearted toward yourself? If Jesus said, right? He said in John 10:11, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. And it says that Jesus said this. He read the scroll from Isaiah that said the Messiah was going to come and heal the brokenhearted and set the captives free and set you free from this prison, right? This is a prison. And so if he says, and then he said, I've fulfilled that right now. I'm fulfilling it right now. He's setting people free. And so it's like, if there's this man, right, this God man that came on earth, and he's not a liar, we know he's not a liar, then it's like stepping in faith, walking in faith and going, you know what, someone came and said he could heal broken hearts. And like, I can attest that I had completely broken heart in so many different ways, broken heart. And he taught me by seeing roses everywhere to start looking at things with rose-colored glasses, right? With my soul eyes, with eyes, deeper eyes, your deeper essence, it says in the Bible, it says, like, you are a new creation. Behold, the old has gone and the new is come. In Christ, you are a new creation. And so you have access to this love, right? All we're invited to do is be mine. It's not complicated, but it's also not so watered down like sometimes the church will make it. It's like, oh, you're saved by grace, and so like do whatever you want. No, when people came to Jesus, you know, and they say, hey, this woman was caught in adultery. The law says we ought to stone her right now to her demise, right? To her not living anymore. And what are you saying? And it said, it was as if he didn't hear them. And they said it again. And he started drawing on the ground, right? It's like, let's say he's taking his finger and writing stuff on the ground. Now, and then it said they left from oldest to youngest. So what do you think that's indicating? Some people have said, you know, because there's all these verses that say him, Jesus, knowing their thoughts, said, blah, 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 why are you talking amongst yourselves like this, right? That he could see, just like, okay, my son was having me watch this anime thing. And sometimes I'll just, you know, he's six, I don't want to say anyway, he's a teenager. Anyway, I'm so careful about my kids anyway, but so I'm watching this anime, and in the anime, the certain people could see certain things above people about their characters or something, right? And I'm pretty careful about what I let them watch, but you also want them to be their own people as well. And so if I'm watching it with them, I can say, hey, you know what, that movie with the person that is painted green, I'm like, that whole movie is about gaslighting you to think that good is bad and bad is good. And you know, it's just horrible in my opinion. But you know, you have to be able to see things psychologically and see through the programming in this world to be able to see that. Otherwise it looks like this, but there's great singing in it. And I was like, well, no one's denying that there's great singing, but anyway, but so it's kind of like, okay, I'm trying to find a way to describe it to you, because Teresa of Avila, Saint Teresa of Avila, they made her into a saint from the 1500s. She was around the time of Saint John of the Cross as well. They knew each other. They were Carmelites. I want to find the quote, because someone was quoting her saying, she said that you never, and I might have read it in the Interior Castle, you never have to go into anything that's a cult. You really, really don't have to. And the world will tempt you to go try to take shortcuts. And just because you could talk to someone that is connected to some kind of spiritual realm, but it's not team God, not team Jesus, it's a different team. Just because you feel like you're in lack and you're desperate and you want to talk to someone from the other realm, you have no idea what doors you're opening up and how to close those doors. And so I never, ever recommend that. And so what I'm saying is that also, if someone is blind and they're not using this site, it's just like if you went off of social media, you wouldn't be seeing this. But if you did for 30 days, let's say, and you fasted from it, the world gets so much quieter. And if you went off all TV and social media, and if you got off caffeine too, I always recommend, you know, I drink green tea, and then I can wean off green tea in like a day. And then you don't get the caffeine headaches, because but I'm not saying caffeine's bad. It just can speed up things. But, you know, I think green tea has all these antioxidants that help people in Japan all the time, and China, right? So I'm not saying, anyway, but if you did, let's say social media, and TV. It's so weird. It's like, because I did this. I went to Turkey for 21 days and I wasn't on social media really, or TV. We were just being present, seeing the places we were seeing and talking to other people. We did have Turkish coffee. It was awesome. But there's other times during Lent for 40 days, except for Sundays, because it's always Resurrection Day, right? From Saturday night until Sunday, as long as we stretch Sunday, you go for 40 days without these things, and you quiet and on down, and it really opens you up to seeing things with a different world. So what I was saying in a different world, what I was saying is like a blind person has a higher sense of smell or hearing, because we only have a certain amount of attention, and more attention's on hearing, so that you can hear if cars are coming, so that you can safely cross the road, or you hear when it says walk, or whatever, and you have your cane and stuff. So if Jesus knew, he was so perfect, he never sinned, and he knew, besides being the God-man, how to develop his spiritual senses. And then, so whatever, these men, I think it was men that brought the woman there. If she was caught in adultery, where was the man they caught her with? But anyway, and so they said, well, aren't you going to stone her? And Jesus, after writing on the ground, after taking the time, and they thought he was just ignoring them, which is really rude to these high officials in the church to just ignore them, right? And it said they looked at what he was writing and they left from oldest to youngest, right? And so if he just wrote like their besetting sin without saying, John, you do this, and you do this, if they saw it, and the older ones were able to, maybe the older ones were just more able to recognize their own stuff before the younger ones, or whatever. Maybe he did it just so you see, like, no, God sees everything you've ever done. And if you disrespected your parents in a certain way, you could be liable to being stoned from the Old Testament rules, right? And Jesus said, whoever of you is without sin, cast the first stone, right? And so they all walked off because none of them were without sin. So they didn't have the right to judge her. And so he said to her, where are your accusers? And she said, Lord, right? She called him Lord. They've all gone. And he's like, even though I have the right to accuse you, you're forgiven. Go and sin no more. Don't go back to disrespecting yourself with someone who's already married to someone else who's not even available for you. Like, that's logic. Like, would you tell your best friend? I was just watching with my mom. She was out here for the holidays. I was watching When Harry Met Sally, and Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia, was in it, and she kept dating these men that were married until she finally dated a guy that wasn't married. Good for her, and they got married to each other in the movie. But she's just like, oh, I just saw this receipt in his briefcase. He just bought, this $1,500 bracelet for his wife. He's not going to leave her, is he? And Meg Ryan's like, no, probably not, right? And it's like, you wouldn't tell your best friend, because they told her, like, why do you keep dating these people who are not available? And it might be safer emotionally if you think you always have to stay in this broken-hearted fear state to date someone who doesn't know how to respect themselves and doesn't know how to have boundaries, and just, we take what we can get because we're in a lack mentality. No, read Psalm 23, the 23rd Psalm. King David, who's in the lineage of Jesus, right? He's the royal lineage of David. Jesus is the great, whatever, how many greats, grandson of King David, right? David wrote, the Lord is my shepherd. And David was a shepherd before, right? And I have this, they have this. I don't know why it's coming, like this music note. You are God's poema. Ephesians 2:10 says you are God's song. You're God's song. Don't treat yourself with disrespect. Don't take shortcuts, because anyway, he says, the Lord is my shepherd, therefore I lack nothing. Start living in this faith. I'm encouraging you. acting as if you lack nothing, because in God, God is love. And Jesus says, for God so loved the whole world, that's every single soul on this earth, no matter what you've done in the past, no matter what you did today, right? For God so loved the whole world that he gave his only begotten son. He sent his own son, and his own son chose to lay down his life. So he said, this is John 3:16. For God so loved the world, that's the agape love. That's not transactional love. This is divine love. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believes in him, puts their faith and trust in him, starts walking in faith, in this kind of love, in this kind of person, in this kind of truth, in this kind of, like, I give you my perfect self, because God is a perfect God and he demands perfection. And so you can put on my righteousness. Jesus says that on the, in his ministry, in his life, in his life, by living perfectly, by death couldn't keep him down. If he had been imperfect, some people, like, I know this guy that doesn't understand the theology. He's like, even Jesus, like, turned over tables in the temple. It's like, yeah, but we assume that he's fighting. He's doing it out of a fear response. He was not doing that out of a reactive place. We know that because it says he braided a whip. When you're in this reactive, like, angry state, you don't sit down and braid a whip to drive out the animals, right? He was calm. He just was like, they were selling animals. It's just like if you caught someone, harming your wife, right? I'm just going to say it like that. You would tear them off and, like, call the police and make sure they're arrested, hold them on the ground, And so here is this temple that his great-great-great-great-grandfather, King Solomon, built. So Jesus was in the lineage. He's in the royal lineage. This is his, in the physical self, and God from heaven on earth, to correct that situation. They were taking advantage of people and selling, like, let's say you had to have 2 turtle doves as you're the poorest person, and that's like 3 pennies, but it cost you 3 pennies a week to eat on. And they were, because you traveled so far, you didn't have turtle doves, they knew people were in this situation, so usually they were 3 pennies, but they were charging like 3/4, like so much more. And so they were ripping people off so that they could bring the right sacrifices to God, and they were profiting, lining their pockets full of this money by taking advantage of poor people that wanted to please God. And so it's not okay. It's not okay. It's extortion. It's all of these horrible things. And so Jesus was correcting it, right? Now the word sin means to miss the mark. And so it's like, no, you didn't hit the bullseye of perfect love. And so it's not shaming this lady when Jesus says, I won't stone you either. Her life was spared. She just got her whole life back. She could have been off that day, right? According to the law. But Jesus said, neither will I condemn you. Go and sin no more. Don't go back to treating yourself as less than. Don't go back to taking shortcuts. Now, there are other shortcuts that people are taking in this world that they don't realize, like, I had trauma happen to me as a child. I won't go into it right now, but I had trauma happen to me as a child. Now, it would be easy for me to just go, oh, men are horrible, men are gross, and I'm never going to date a man because I wasn't protected. In certain situations by men that ought to have protected me. I could just write them off and say, I'm going to date women then, because it's certainly going to be better if I date women. And so don't take that out of context. I'm telling you, like, that was an example, and I'm saying no. I might need to make a note, just say, don't allow remixing of this. Not that I try to control everything, but I'll just write a little note. All right, and so you understand. Are you gonna judge me or think I'm a horrible person because when I'm 7, I come up with this solution because something, I wasn't protected when I was 6 or 5 or whatever. Or when I was 11, I came up with this solution because I'm a child that, oh, I'm going to cut out this whole group of people because they don't seem safe to me, right? It's just like if you grew up in a certain neighborhood and certain other people judged you because you weren't their same color and you got attacked. I was at a concert one time. Oh my gosh. Who was the concert? I didn't know. I was just in Oakland. I was in Oakland, Northern California. It was different than Southern California. And it was, I won't say I don't remember what concert it was, but I was at this concert and I was the only person of my color there. And someone picked me up and they're like, what are you doing here, white girl? Who do you think you are to be here? I'm like, I don't look at colors. Like, I didn't say that, but it's like, I didn't. And I just like, thank God nothing else happened. Maybe his warring angels were protecting me even then, but there's Psalm 91 that says you are protected, but it also says don't test the Lord your God. Jesus quoted that because the enemy was trying to get him to like test it. And so, but anyway, and so if that happened to me when I was 7, because I grew up in a certain neighborhood and people picked on me, because I know a lot of people had bullies in childhood, then you might grow up and be scared of a whole race of people just because you were treated a certain way and these bullies were a certain different ethnicity or race, and it's like, all that's just programming. And you're not going to judge someone because they're prejudiced, but you would want them to not be prejudiced. What if God wants me to marry this wonderful man that's a different color than me, and I'm prejudiced against a certain color because I was bullied by and it's like, no, you want to get over that. Or what if he has a man prepared for me and that's not a woman, and I had already had it in my mind as a little child before I even registered what I was doing. And so listen, this is not to pick on anyone. This is just love everyone where they are. But at the same time, we don't have to agree that like the dialectical definition of truth is to say what is and what is not is not. This is a pen. If I say this is a giraffe, I'm lying. If I say that I am a man, that's not true. I am a woman. Like, that's how I was born. And I could be a confused woman, and I could think that all men are horrible because of my own childhood, or I could trust that no matter how difficult things get, just like that woman caught in adultery, no matter how messed up her childhood was, Jesus was inviting her to go and stop missing the mark of perfect love. Hey, I invite you to see that there's a deeper love. I used to dance to a song like that. It's like, a deeper love. Hey, 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 hey. People, let me tell you, da, 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 da. And there's a, lady's like, everybody's free to feel good. Rosella was her name. But anyway, so it's like, rise up, open your soul eyes, understand that you have an eternal purpose. And so going back to that Psalm 139, it's like, yeah, it says there's a book written about you. And there's also Isaiah and Jeremiah, the prophets in the Old Testament, that say, they quote God saying, behold the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and give you a hope and a future. And it's kind of like when you look up that in the Hebrew, go look it up and you can write it in the comments. It's like, this is like a storyboard. This is like what they do before they make a movies, or a blueprint. Before you create a house, you have to draw it all out, and these are all the materials we need, and this is how it's going to be stable, and this is the foundation we need to pour on. And so C.S. Lewis says in Mere Christianity, he says, we understand when when we give ourselves to God, we say yes, you know, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son, whosoever should believe in him will not perish, but have eternal life. When we say, yes, I want to have eternal life, I believe that Jesus died for my sins, I accept, fill me with your Holy Spirit, take me through the process, purify, refine me, you know, when we say that and we ask God, yes, and he says, be mine, and you say, yes, I will. Yeah, I know you're not judging me. You forgive me for every sin I did knowingly or unknowingly, like all my ignorances, all the ways I walked on other people because I didn't know I was worth more love or they were worth more love, you know. And so it's like all the people like ghosted and broke their hearts when they were already bullied as children. And then, you know, I just reawakened all these old wounds in them by abandoning them with no word. You know, it's like God can heal that. God can heal that. And that person that actually did that, you know, I mean, they're going to be held accountable. But what they actually did was gave you a chance to heal these old wounds that you didn't know were there. I know, because you can see I probably have 200 videos in my getting over being ghosted now from 6 years ago, when I had to ask a 20-year-old was like, oh, that's called being ghosted. And I'm like, what just happened? You know, I didn't know. But because I had been married before that, and it was just, anyway, but we can be forgiven. We can be forgiven. And so where was I with the whole, with the woman? You know, it's like, go and don't go back to that life of lesser love. Come, I invite you to this higher love. I invite you to a deeper love. I invite you to know yourself as someone I cherish, someone I would never ghost. You know, I usually wear this bracelet. I put this one on instead. Like, you know, this pearl person is looking for the pearl of great price and finds it and sells everything he has because of this one truth, right? It's just like this. It's like, and my bracelet says, behold, I am with you always. I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. Bring your shame to me. He says, all of you who are weary and heavy laden, come unto me. I will give you rest. I will give you rest for your soul. It says in Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd. And if Jesus says, I am the good shepherd, then he is all of these attributes that are in that psalm that was written 2,000 years before. The Lord is the I am that I am, the thing, the being, the absolute infinite love being. God is love, this love that is above all time and all created things and all the ups and downs we go through and all of the highs and lows and everything. You know, the Lord is my shepherd. The I am that I am, that's the word for I am that I am, is my best friend. It's a word for best friend as well. Like it's someone, a companion who walks with you. Lord is my shepherd. Therefore, I lack nothing. I don't lack anything. It says he leads me on paths of righteousness, this right way of being. It's just like, oh, I thought that was the solution, but that was only a lesser solution. I thought being angry all the time and hating people and writing off men or carrying 60 extra pounds, that's what I had. 6 months ago, I had those 60 extra pounds on my body. You know, I thought that was the way to keep people from using me or whatever, you know. Are you going to judge me because I carried that extra? That's a form of trying to control other people. No, like I'm not going to control. I'm going to be light in my life and be light shining, you know, and walk in this right way of being. It doesn't mean being skinny is this right way. It's not carrying this extra layer to try to temporarily protect myself from evil people that would look at me in a gross way and in a transactional way, instead of look at me as this vibrant soul that's in a beautiful body. Like, yes, we can go to Europe and there's all these beautiful paintings and sculptures of beautiful bodies. There's nothing wrong about that, but you're not meant to use it up like smoking a cigarette and just you know, it's never meant for that. But it's not mine. Like, that's a job for Jesus. Jesus can correct those people. I don't have to like wear you know, 9 down coats on my body just to keep people away from me, right? And so, but who are you to judge me? Because I was in that broken place, like broke in, right? I felt like people had broken in. And so, anyway, the Lord is my shepherd, therefore I lack nothing. He restores my soul. He comforts me. It says, come forth. He comes forth in me. And it says, he leads me beside quiet waters, right? Where I can sit in silence. I don't have to keep running from my shame, running to lesser things. Like, yes, if I go to a bottle of wine, then that will, impair my judgment, inebriate me, cause me to be numb for a while, but then I'll have more problems afterwards because I didn't learn how to, like, here, I don't know, do I have a long sleeve shirt? Yeah, I do. So you're not going to see my arms. I'm not going to learn how to be strong. Like, maybe you can. Like, there's my muscle. I'm not going to have this, I'm not going to learn how to be strong because I learned how to go to something less than, right? But anyway, he calls us to something higher. My light turned on, so my client's here, and I'm going to put my jacket back on. The Lord is my shepherd, therefore I don't lack anything. He's my best friend. The creator of the universe is my shepherd. I don't know who yours is, but you can have this one, so that's why I don't have a problem telling you about it. Therefore I lack nothing. He restores my soul. He leads me on paths of righteousness for his name's sake. He leads me to quiet waters, right? Jesus says, I'm the living water. Drink of me. He restores my soul. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I won't fear any evil. For you're with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Because you pull me when I'm about to go off a cliff, and you take out the wolves that are in my life and show me how to trust you. Show me how to heal. You prepare a table for me in the presence of all my enemies, all those who mocked me and thought less of me and liked me when I was down like that and oppressed and try to pull me down when I'm not in that state anymore, when I'm just shining. And I'm like, no, I'm going to be light. You prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies. Surely goodness. You anoint my cup. You anoint my head with oil. That's what they do for the priests and the kings. So you can look that up. I have a whole playlist called Priests and Kings. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. That's like the king pouring in this abundance, right? Surely goodness and mercy will chase me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord, the house of the I am that I am, this perfect love. Like, I just encourage you to learn this, to walk in this, walk in love. Jesus says, remain in my love. I am the vine, you are the branches. Remain in my love, all right? And then all this stuff starts healing. That's all. All right, much love. I gotta go.